And hello again. And here we have Barney. He's just been out for a good long walk. He's a bit damp, he's been swimming with the ducks in the local pond, but now I think he's just about due for a nice long sleep. Which gives me the chance to tell you guys about a book I've got for Christmas. I wanted it for quite a long time. It's been out for about 2 years, I think, but it's so expensive I just didn't bother. But thankfully Santa's brought it for me, and it's a book about drag racing, and in particular bike drag racing. Now when it comes to books on drag racing, there are thousands out there on car drag racing, but very few about bikes. And of those, most of them are sort of coffee table types, very little real information in them, just sort of big photo books really. But there are two which I've found, which I've now got, which are really worth the money, and I would recommend them if it's something you are into. So let's look at the first one of those, and here it is, while Barney here goes to sleep. And the first of those two books is this one here, Drag Racing in Britain from the mid-60s to the mid-80s. And I must say I wasn't expecting much from this because it's quite a cheap book, about £11 I think when I bought it. Quite a small book at that. And I was actually pleasantly surprised. It's a real gem, and it covers just about everything you want to know about the subject, right through from, I'd say, the mid-60s right through to the mid-80s. And as I say, it's got everything in it, from the Made of Wonderful to the more modern. There you go, look, there's a multi-engine bike, quite common back in the 70s before the single engine bikes came along to replace them. Yeah, there's a triple Kawasaki triple 9-cylinder 2-stroke, I don't know. And yeah, so if you go for this, it gives you really all the information you need. And in fact, there's some bikes here that I've seen racing back in the early 70s and beyond, when I was very young indeed, Santa Pod. So yeah, there are some amazing pictures in here. So it brings you back, if you're into drag racing in the UK at least. I think this is a must-have book, and as I say, I can't really praise it enough. It's been a real kind of labour of love, I think, from the author, a chap called Keith Lee, and I must say, yeah, a definite must-have. So that's the first of those two books that I could recommend. And that second book is this one here, Motorcycle Drag Racing, A History by John S. Steen. And it's actually quite expensive because you can't buy it from the UK. It's not available from Amazon UK or anywhere else you can find. So this has actually been bought from the States and imported. And that makes it quite expensive at about, I think, £70. So that's a lot of money to pay for one little book. But it's what I'm into, and if you're into it, then you really should have this book. It's been, again, a kind of labour of love for the author. I don't think there's much money in this particular area of publishing, so he's put a lot of effort and time in making this particular book. And all the big hitters from the last sort of 50 years of drag racing, for bikes at least, are in this book and have comments and so on. So here we look, we've got a forward from Sandy Cosman of Cosman Frames fame. Yeah, so let's have a quick look through the book and we'll see whether it's actually worth all that money. So first of all, I got a letter here thanking me for the order from the author. That's quite nice. Obviously not exactly a massive amount of sales of this particular book, but it's well worth it. So you go right through from the very beginnings of drag racing, from the 50s, 60s, the golden age, 70s, take you all the way through. Obviously this is mainly about the American scene, which, let's face it, is the main area of drag racing for bikes and cars in the world. But it does sometimes have some comments about the UK and the time when, in the 70s, some of the big, famous and fastest bikes from the States came over to the UK for some exhibition races, so that's quite interesting. And yeah, so I did learn quite a lot from this book, and all of the photographs are well worth looking at as well. I mean, there's good old Larry Spider-Man McBride on his bike, fantastic picture there. But really, what I did like was the fact that, let me just get that out of the way, you sort of get the story from the horse's mouth, as it were. He's gone to the trouble of finding all those old guys who used to race in the 50s and 60s and the 70s as well, I guess, and getting the true story of what happened, who did what when, and little jokey stories and whatever. So you really feel like you're sort of talking to the guys who really did it for real. In fact, look at that there's a Vincent there doing a wheelie off the line, and the guy's not even wearing a helmet, I don't think. He's just got a t-shirt on and ordinary shoes. Unbelievable. When was that? That must have been in the 50s, I guess. So yeah, it takes you right through. And there's a bike that raced a jet plane, which is quite interesting. And it is actually pretty amazing what the people did back then with some pretty basic facilities. I mean, this guy here, Herbert, who sort of built his own cams from scratch, which is pretty amazing. Yeah, so we can go through here. I mean, I love the Sportster ones because I've got an Andy Sportster, so well worth looking at. So I can't go through the whole damn book, but the photographs in it are really good. Obviously, there's a lot of personal photographs he's got from some of the big hitters like Russ Collins, as was. You know, really, really fantastic book. And there you go. V8 engine bike from E.J. Potter, the so-called Michigan madman. And again, you get the story from him. It's not some magazine article or some second-hand knowledge. It's actually an interview with E.J. Potter. So, well worth doing. Yeah. Triple engine, double engined Hondas from the early 70s from RC Engineering. Yeah. I mean, I'm just about old enough to remember all that stuff, so yeah, pretty cool. And then I'm actually up to here now. We get top fuel bikes, more sort of current era. We're building one at the moment, but whether they'll ever get finished, who knows. But you know, you can see the development of the bikes, how they improved over the years. And, it all became much more professional, and when money came into the sport, it's a bit of a shame because I must admit, back in the 60s and 70s, I did used to like seeing all the weird and wonderful bikes, the British engine stuff, Harley engine stuff, car engine stuff, and all that seems to have died now. There's not much of it around anymore unless you go to a classic meeting such as Dragstalgia, which we go to every year. Yeah, so Jim McClure, of course, Pro Stocks, and I could keep on going. And there's the famous Pegasus. Saw that racing not long ago, and saw it as an exhibition at Dragstalgia at Santa Pod. So, and actually there aren't many bikes that you see that you used to dream of seeing and racing back in the day when you was a kid, but that was one of the bikes that I saw and I thought, wow, it is just as good and just as shiny and just as sort of well made as I expected it would be. I mean, often now you go back and see bikes that were built back then in the 70s and you think, oh god, look at the state of that. Because obviously they were doing it in a shed, they had no money, and compared to the modern ways of doing things, it's pretty crude, but I must say I was impressed with Pegasus. That was a very impressive machine. Anyway, so it takes you right through the whole history of drag racing with obviously an emphasis on the US. But nevertheless, well worth it, and if you are into drag racing, for bikes at least, there's not much out there that's beyond the coffee table book, but this definitely isn't one of those. This is well worth having, fantastic content, and yeah, I'm very happy to have it. So there's a quick review of this book, and if you do want something like this, as I say, I had to buy it from the publishers themselves, and perhaps you'll get a handwritten note from the author just like I did when I received it. So anyway, thanks for watching and cheers.